Hi everyone, welcome to One Breath, a place where we read, reflect on, and immerse ourselves in books that help us understand ourselves better and live more peacefully each day. The year 2025 is filled with challenges, with slowing economic growth and increasing natural disasters caused by climate change. In the midst of all these difficulties, if you're still unsure how to maintain inner peace, how to let go of unnecessary worries and sorrows so you can fully enjoy life, then today's book might be the right choice for you. This book is titled How to Stop Worrying and Start Living. The French philosopher Valéry once said, "Science is a collection of successful formulas." This book is no different. It is a collection of proven formulas for relieving anxiety, tested and confirmed over time. It not only highlights the harmful effects of worry on both mental and physical health, but also offers practical methods to manage and resolve problems, helping us control and overcome anxiety so we can build a happier, more balanced, and more meaningful life. The author of this book, Dale Carnegie, was a renowned American writer, lecturer, and teacher, best known for the classic How to Win Friends and Influence People, along with many other works on communication and personal development. He founded an international training organization and was a pioneer in the field of human development, firmly believing that anyone can transform their behavior in a more positive direction. So now, let's dive into the timeless principles Dale Carnegie has distilled to help us overcome worry and live joyfully. Worry, the root of human troubles. Through many years of teaching life skills to adults, Dale Carnegie discovered that one of the greatest troubles people face is worry. His students, whether entrepreneurs, salespeople, engineers, accountants, or homemakers, all had their own problems stemming from different forms of anxiety. In reality, worry is simply a natural reaction of the mind when we begin to feel a loss of control. It starts with physiological changes, such as a faster heartbeat and shorter breaths, then spreads to our thoughts, causing us to amplify our fears and imagine worst-case scenarios that haven't even happened. Eventually, worry steers our behavior, making us procrastinate, avoid challenges, or act in panic. In this book, the author shares real-life stories from his own experiences and those of others who have faced and solved various problems. From these stories, he distilled a set of principles, each summarized in a short, memorable statement so that you can easily jot them down in your notebook and apply them in your daily life. Now, let's dive into each principle in detail. To begin the journey of facing worry in the most practical way, Dale Carnegie presents the first three foundational principles, simple in nature, yet capable of soothing your mind almost immediately. Principle 1. Live in compartmentalized time. Did you know? The feelings you experience every day, worrying about the future, or dwelling on the past, leave your mind heavy and exhausted. These feelings actually stem from a habit, allowing your mind to wander aimlessly between yesterday and tomorrow. One of the most alarming observations about our modern lifestyle is the skyrocketing number of patients experiencing psychological and neurological issues, spanning all ages from adolescents to adults and the elderly. In reality, most of these people would remain healthy if they knew how to completely set aside the burdens of the past and the vague fears of the future. Dr. William Osler, the father of modern medicine, compared the human mind to a ship. Instead of sealing the watertight compartments, the sailor, that is you, opens them all, letting the waters of the past and the future flood in, causing your mind ship to sink into chaos and fear. If you do not want your mind ship to continue rocking, lose direction, or worse, develop psychological disorders, remember the first guiding principle that the author offers. Close the heavy doors leading to the past and the future. Live fully in today, making the most of the precious 24 hours of each day. Principle 2. Willis H. Carrier's miraculous solution. When faced with troubles or failure, people often find it impossible to focus. The mind becomes consumed by the worst that could happen, draining energy while the problem remains unresolved. The main reason is that we try to avoid or resist reality instead of confronting it. As long as we are unwilling to face the worst, fear continues to simmer beneath the surface. Dale Carnegie recounts the story of Willis H. Carrier, the inventor of the air conditioning system. When he was young, Carrier experienced failure in a multi-million-dollar air purification installation project. His first trial had been successful, but the official installation ended in failure. He became so worried that he was exhausted for an extended period. Eventually, he discovered a miraculous 3-step method to handle the situation. The first step was to confront the problem and anticipate the worst possible outcome. He told himself that, at most, he might lose his job or the $20,000 investment. The next step was to persuade himself to accept whatever happened. He reasoned that even if he lost his job, he could find another, and that the lost investment could be considered a research expense. Finally, he calmly looked for a solution. He decided to invest an additional $5,000 to install supplementary equipment to fix the issue. In the end, instead of losing the full $20,000, he recovered $15,000 and maintained his reputation with the client. Principle 3. The harm caused by worry. The philosopher Plato once said, "The greatest mistake physicians make is that they try to cure the body without attempting to heal the mind. They forget that the mind and body are intertwined. Worry not only disrupts our mental peace, but also directly affects our physical health. It weakens the heart, strains the nerves, tightens the stomach, and can lead to serious illnesses such as heart attacks, strokes, cancer, and even depression or suicide." Dr. Joseph F. Montague, author of Nervous Stomach Trouble, affirmed, "Most cases of gastric ulcers are caused not by diet, but by our own thoughts. And more importantly, the progression of the illness depends on the rise and fall of our emotions. You may have just gone through a painful divorce, a financial loss, or prolonged stress. Any of these situations can cause worry and pressure intense enough to trigger various physical ailments. So if you still cherish your life and want to live long and stay healthy, then right now, please listen to the heartfelt advice of Dr. Alexis Carrel. Those who can maintain tranquility of mind, even amid the turbulence of modern life, are largely immune to mental illness. Those who do not know how to resist worry will die young. In the first chapter, we explored Carrier's 3-step miracle method. While effective, it is still not thorough enough. What we need is a more comprehensive approach, and that is precisely the 3-step method of Aristotle, who is regarded as one of the greatest minds in human history. This method is built on 3 fundamental steps. Step 1. Understand the problem. People often have a tendency to make a decision before gathering enough information. Emotions and preconceived biases lead them to select only what supports their existing viewpoint, while ignoring the actual facts. As a result, they make decisions in confusion, haste, and ignorance, which inevitably leads to mistakes. At this first step, Aristotle advised us to place ourselves in different positions in order to see the problem from multiple angles and approach it more rationally. Step 2. Analyze the problem. All the information you collect will be useless unless you analyze and interpret it. Charles Kettering, a renowned American inventor in automotive engineering, once said, "A problem well stated is a problem half solved." Step 3. Decide and act decisively. Dale Carnegie shared the story of Galen Litchfield, one of the most successful American businessmen in Asia. In 1942, after the shocking attack on Pearl Harbor, the Japanese army occupied Shanghai. At the time, Litchfield was managing director of a life insurance company there. One day, a Japanese military officer came to demand a full declaration of the company's assets. Litchfield had no choice but to comply, but he quietly omitted the assets located in Hong Kong from the list. Later, this omission was discovered. The officer immediately rushed to the office, furious, cursing him and calling him a traitor. Litchfield was not present at that moment, but when he learned what had happened, he was overwhelmed with fear. He feared he would be taken to Bridge House, the notorious Japanese torture prison from which almost no one returned alive. Fortunately, he had a method for dealing with problems. That Sunday afternoon, in his office, he sat down at his typewriter and typed out 2 questions. The first question, "What am I worrying about?" His answer, "I'm afraid I'll be taken to Bridge House Prison tomorrow morning." The second question, "What can I do about it?" He sat for a long time before writing 4 possible courses of action, along with their potential outcomes. He wrote the first option. "I could go explain the situation to the officer, but he doesn't speak English." Trying to explain through an interpreter might only infuriate him even more, which would mean being thrown into prison immediately. His second option, "I could try to escape, but the Japanese army is extremely vigilant. If I attempt to flee, I'd likely be caught and shot." The third option, "I could simply not come to the office anymore, but that would make the officers suspicious and could lead to being dragged to prison right away." The fourth option, "I will go to the office on Monday morning as usual. The officer may be too busy to remember what happened. Even if he does remember, he may have calmed down and decided not to pursue the matter. If that happens, I'll be safe. And even if he is angry, I'll still have a chance to explain. That means I'll have 2 chances to avoid imprisonment." After listing all the options, he chose the fourth. The next morning, when he entered the officer was sitting there, glaring at him but saying nothing. A month later, the officer returned to Japan, and Litchfield's fear of being imprisoned was finally over. He later admitted that if he hadn't written down the options and their possible outcomes, then calmly made a decision, he might have panicked, hesitated, and made a disastrous choice at the worst moment. He might have spent the entire night sleepless, arrived at the office with a pale, anxious face, and that alone could have aroused suspicion and sent him straight to prison. From his experience, he concluded that 50% of his worry disappeared the moment he made a firm decision, and 40% more disappeared when he carried it out. With just 4 steps, writing down the worry, listing possible solutions, making a decision, and executing it, he eliminated 90% of his anxiety. These 4 steps closely mirrored the foundation of Aristotle's method introduced earlier: understand the problem, analyze the problem, make a decision. A similar story was shared by businessman Leon Shimkin, director at the publishing house Simon & Schuster. Shimkin said that for 15 years, he wasted more than half his time in meetings, arguing endlessly over issues without reaching a conclusion. Later, he discovered a method that changed everything. At the start of each meeting, instead of letting people present problems only to ask, "What should we do?" he implemented a new rule. Anyone who wished to raise an issue had to prepare a report answering 4 questions. 1. What is the problem? 2. What is the cause of the problem? 3. What are the possible solutions? 4. Which solution is the best? After applying this rule, meetings became shorter and far more effective. In fact, most problems were resolved before they even reached him. You see, from Aristotle to Galen Litchfield to Leon Shimkin, though they lived in different eras and worked in different fields, the way they overcame their worries was remarkably similar. Every difficulty can be solved if you are willing to understand the problem thoroughly, analyze it clearly, and act decisively. The difference between someone who is constantly controlled by worry and someone who takes charge of their life does not lie in who encounters fewer problems, but in who confronts them more rationally. Only when you write things down, analyze them, and choose to act, instead of making impulsive emotional decisions, will you realize that most of what troubles you is not nearly as frightening as it once seemed. Once you've learned the methods for dealing with worry in the previous 2 sections, you start to realize that fears and anxieties aren't as terrifying as they once seemed, because now you have practical tools to address them. But here's the truth. Worry doesn't only arise from problems themselves, it also comes from the ingrained habit of worrying that has taken root in our minds over many years. If you want to live a life of freedom and happiness, you must learn how to uproot this habit at its core. That is why Dale Carnegie devoted an entire chapter to this topic. 6 principles to break the habit of worry before worry has the chance to break you. If Aristotle's 3-step method helps you deal with the worries you are currently facing, then these 6 principles serve as a mental immune system, protecting you from unnecessary anxiety and freeing you from worry in the future. Now, let's dive into the first principle. Keep yourself busy. Dale Carnegie begins with the story of Mr. Douglas, a father of 3 who, within the span of 1 year, lost 2 of his children. He was devastated. He tried seeing psychologists, taking sedatives, traveling, and various other methods, yet nothing seemed to help. One afternoon, his 4-year-old son asked him to make a toy boat. At that moment, he felt he had no strength left for anything, but the boy was stubborn and kept insisting. So he reluctantly began working on it. It took him 3 hours to finish the boat, and he suddenly realized that those 3 hours were the first time in months he had felt calm and at ease. That very night, he walked around the house and made a list of all the things that needed fixing. He discovered that there was so much to repair. From that day on, he kept himself constantly occupied with projects and tasks. He also joined several social activities. He later admitted that staying busy was what pulled him out of the depths of despair. When the mind is absorbed in doing something simple such as fixing a door, replacing a faucet, or renailing a step, negative thoughts simply have no space to settle. Even the great scientist Pasteur once spoke of the peace he found in his library and laboratory. Psychologists explain this phenomenon with one of the most basic principles of the mind. No matter how intelligent a person is, they cannot think of 2 things at the same time. You cannot be actively, enthusiastically engaged in a task while simultaneously feeling anxious and distressed. One emotional state pushes out the other. Carnegie noted that this insight helped psychiatrists successfully treat soldiers suffering from nervous disorders after World War II. These veterans were encouraged to participate in activities like fishing, golfing, photography, or dancing, so they had no time left to dwell on traumatic memories of war. In the book, What Men Live By, Dr. Richard C. Cabot, professor of clinical medicine at Harvard University, wrote, "As a physician, I have had the privilege of witnessing how work has saved many patients suffering from shock, paralysis, and trembling caused by doubt, hesitation, indecision, and fear." The thinker George Bernard Shaw also observed, "If you want to make yourself miserable, just ask yourself whether you are happy. So don't waste time overthinking. Roll up your sleeves, get to work, and keep yourself busy. When you do, your blood circulates better, your mind becomes more active, and unnecessary worries dissolve on their own." The next principle we will explore is simple yet powerful. Don't let trifles trouble you. Many of us have a habit of fixating on insignificant things, a harsh comment, a small mistake someone made. We get irritated, upset, and sometimes allow these tiny incidents to ruin an entire day or even an entire relationship. What's ironic is that we may be brave enough to face major adversity, yet we crumble so easily before the minor frictions of daily life. The truth is, the human mind is wired to react, rather than to observe. The brain tends to magnify small negative events, making them feel much more serious than they actually are. The ego inflates these small slides even further. A criticism, a thoughtless gesture, if not viewed with clarity, can instantly trigger defensiveness, anger, or hurt. The Buddha taught, "What you cannot let go, even if it is small, becomes the chain that binds you. Judge Joseph Sabbath of Chicago, after presiding over more than 40,000 unhappy marriages, concluded, petty disagreements are the primary cause of marital unhappiness. Frank S. Hogan, former district attorney of New York, added, more than half of criminal cases arise from trivial things. A rude look at a bar, a family quarrel, an insulting remark, a sneer, a crude gesture. Any of these can escalate into violence or even murder. Few people set out to commit wrongdoing. Most are simply pushed over the edge by small irritations that injure their pride and dignity. These same trifles are responsible for half the heart disease in the world. Dale Carnegie shared an insightful story he heard from a minister about an ancient tree. On a mountainside stood an old tree stump, dried and weathered. Naturalists estimated that it had lived more than 400 years. Its trunk had endured 14 lightning strikes, countless landslides, and violent storms, yet it stood firm through them all. In the end, what killed it was a swarm of tiny beetles. These tiny creatures bored through its bark and slowly destroyed its life from within. A trunk that time could not weaken, lightning could not shatter, and storms could not tear down, was finally defeated by insects so small they could be crushed with a fingertip. Carnegie concluded that people are much like that ancient tree. We may endure life's thunder, storms, and disasters, yet allow our hearts to be eaten away by little beetles of worry, creatures so tiny they could be crushed in an instant. Therefore, the author urges us to eliminate worry before it destroys you. Stop giving so much attention to trivial things. Always remember, life is far too short to waste on petty concerns. Continuing from the previous principle about not letting trivial matters disturb you, Dale Carnegie introduces another powerful idea, facing your worries with the logic of the law of averages. Here, the law of averages simply refers to the probability of a particular event happening. Carnegie used his own childhood, full of irrational fears, as an example. During storms, he was terrified that lightning would strike him dead. During hard times, he feared starvation. He even feared being buried alive or going to hell when he died. He dreaded being ridiculed if he confessed his feelings to someone he loved. He worried he would never marry, and, if he did, he wouldn't know what to say after the wedding. All these fears created tremendous tension in his life. Eventually, he discovered that 90% of the things he worried about never happened. For instance, when it came to lightning, the actual rate of death by lightning strike is only 1 inch 350,000. The fear of being buried alive was even more absurd. Even in barbaric times, only 1 inch 10 million people suffered such a fate. These irrational fears are not limited to children. Adults fall into the same trap. The story of a fruit distribution company owner illustrates this clearly. Every day, his company transported 10 to 15 truckloads of fruit to the market. Each time the trucks left, he tormented himself with worries that a truck might break down, that fruit might spill onto the road, that a bridge might collapse while his vehicle was crossing. Even though he had insured all his goods, he still feared losing customers if the deliveries arrived late. His constant anxiety eventually led to severe stomach ulcers, and doctors concluded the cause was nervous tension. Only then did he sit down and tally the numbers. Over the years, how many trucks had his company sent out, and how many had actually broken down? The answer? About 5 out of 25,000. This meant the probability was just 1 inch 5,000. As for bridges collapsing, not a single truck had ever encountered such an incident. Realizing this, he felt foolish for worrying himself into illness over a bridge that had never collapsed and troubles with only a 1 inch 5,000 chance of happening. Think about it. Isn't it true that insurance companies earn enormous profits from people's fears of events that haven't happened? They essentially gamble with customers on the very things those customers worry about, except they call it insurance. In reality, it is simply a bet based on the law of averages. And As long as human nature remains unchanged, insurance companies will continue to grow by attaching risk to everything, even when the law of averages says those risks rarely occur. To apply the law of averages, train yourself to calculate the numbers. Ask yourself, what is the actual probability that the thing I'm worried about will happen? You may be surprised by the answer. Once we understand the law of averages, we begin to view the world with greater clarity. We realize that most worries are merely imagined rather than real. However, even with rational calculation, we cannot control everything. There are losses, unforeseen events, and rare pains that no one can predict. In such cases, the only solution is to accept reality and remind yourself, it is what it is, and it cannot be otherwise. If the law of averages helps us worry less about what has not yet happened, acceptance allows us to find peace with what has already occurred and cannot be changed. Consider car tires. Have you ever wondered why they can endure rolling over roads and absorbing so many impacts? You might think it's because they are thick and hard. In fact, that's not the case. In the early days, tire manufacturers also thought this way, but over time, the hard and thick tires would tear apart. So they developed a more flexible tire that could absorb shocks from the road, and these are the tires we see today. The author also recounts his experience planting trees on his own farm and watching them endure a snowstorm. Instead of bending, some trees stood rigidly upright, only to have their branches break, trunks split, and ultimately die under the weight of ice. He compares this to the forests of Canada, where trees bend gracefully, yielding to the snow rather than resisting it. Judo instructors often teach their students to be flexible like the willow, not rigid like the oak. By stubbornly resisting like an oak, we create internal conflicts, become anxious, stressed, restless, and risk mental imbalance. Jesus once said, "Heaven and hell are both within us." Clearly, it is not circumstances that make us happy or unhappy, but rather our reaction to those circumstances that determines our emotional state. Once we understand and practice the philosophy of accepting what cannot be changed, a sense of peace begins to take root in our minds. But this is only the first step. Human nature tends to cling to worry. Even when reason says to let go, emotions often resist. This is precisely why we turn to Castle's cut-loss rule, to give the mind true rest and allow life to open up to more positive possibilities. Charles Roberts, an investment advisor, shared a personal story. Once, friends entrusted him with $20,000 to invest in the stock market. Confident in his knowledge, he was shocked when he lost it all. He felt guilty and anxious about facing his friends. Yet, instead of reproaching him, they entrusted him with more money to invest. This prompted him to reflect. All his past temporary gains had relied on luck and others' predictions. He realized he had been investing by ear, not by head. Roberts began studying the market and analyzing his mistakes. During this time, he had the opportunity to speak with Castles, a successful stock investor. Castles shared a crucial principle: always set a cut-loss order for every trade. For example, if purchasing a stock at $50, simultaneously set a cut-loss order at $45. If the stock drops more than 5 points below the purchase price, it is automatically sold, limiting losses to 5 points. By applying this rule, even if the market performs poorly, one can still preserve capital. By following Castle's rule, Roberts avoided significant losses and later realized it could apply to many areas of life. For instance, if he had a friend who often arrived late to lunch, making him wait, he could set a stop rule. If you are more than 10 minutes late, our lunch ends and I will not wait. By adopting this rule in life, we can set stop orders for impatience, irritability, stubbornness, mental stress, emotional tension, and regrets. This allows us to assess situations rationally and remind ourselves, I've worried enough, stop now. The author also shared a personal experience at age 30. He spent 2 years writing a novel, only to have no publisher accept it. He was devastated, and it took a long time to regain composure. Although he did not yet know Castle's rule, he intuitively applied it. He set a stop for his disappointment over the unfulfilled expectations. He accepted the result as an honest reflection of his abilities and valued the experience. He returned to teaching and writing biographies and other non-fiction works. He admitted that setting a stop for negative emotions during this crisis had been a wise decision, preventing despair from consuming him entirely. Today, many couples or longtime friends fall out over minor misunderstandings or trivial matters, sometimes to the point of severing ties completely. This happens because they fail to set a stop for negative events or emotions. It is foolish to waste so much of life on things unworthy of such energy. Therefore, always remember Castle's cut-loss rule and set a stop for all negative emotions within you. If the cut-loss rule teaches your mind to stop before worry, anger, or regret spirals out of control, then the final principle in the 6 rules to break all worry habits teaches you how to live in the present and let the past bury its mistakes. Sometimes we suffer not only because of what is happening, but also because of what has already passed that we refuse to let go. We often unconsciously cling to every memory, whether joyful or painful, like a stock trader holding on to a falling stock simply because they cannot admit they were wrong. We get trapped in regret, in if only and what could have been thoughts, as if thinking long enough could somehow change the past. When you grieve a broken relationship, lose sleep over a bad investment, or agonize over a regrettable remark, it is because your mind is haunted by the past, mistakes and failures already occurred, and you torment yourself, trying to redo what cannot be changed, wasting energy on what is already finished. The result is a loss of positive energy and the repetition of old mistakes. Dale Carnegie himself once experienced this. He lost $300,000 investing in a skills class for adults due to poor financial management. Instead of learning the lesson and moving forward, he punished himself with sleepless nights and despair simply because he could not let go of what had happened. Yet, everything in life flows like water. We cannot change a 180 million year old fossilized dinosaur footprint etched in stone, nor can we reverse even events that occurred just 180 seconds ago. The past holds no power unless we give it the power to torment us. Only by accepting what cannot be changed can we truly be free in the present. So, we have just gone through the first 3 chapters of the book, forming a complete journey from recognizing worry to managing worry, and finally to freeing yourself from the habit of worrying. Chapter 1 lays the foundation with the 3 most basic principles, much like building a solid base before constructing higher floors. Chapter 2 then introduces you to Aristotle's 3-step method, a more analytical approach that allows you to dissect worry into manageable parts and examine it thoroughly by asking questions such as, what is the truth? Can I handle the worst-case scenario? What can I do right now? Finally, Chapter 3 broadens the scope. It not only addresses current worries, but also teaches how to break the long-rooted habit of worrying. The 6 principles in this chapter act as 6 subtle escape routes, helping you prevent the spiral of anxiety so that each day can be lived more lightly, clearly, and freely. In short, if worry were like a storm, Chapter 1 teaches you to build a roof, Chapter 2 teaches you to observe and handle the storm, and Chapter 3 helps you create a system that prevents you from being swept away by it. When these 3 layers of knowledge combine, you almost hold in your hands the art of living peacefully, the very wisdom Dale Carnegie dedicated his life to sharing with readers. Once you've built a solid foundation for recognizing and handling worry, your journey doesn't end there. To truly live with ease, we need to strengthen our inner resilience, learning to stand firm in the face of criticism and protect our own energy from exhaustion. And to explore the tools that help you not only overcome anxiety, but also cultivate lasting peace from within, I invite you to continue with part 2 of this book. Thank you for staying with me until the end of this video. If what I shared brought you any clarity or comfort, please pass it along to someone who may also need a peaceful moment. Don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss my weekly uploads. I'll see you again in the next videos.